Does red light therapy really boost collagen, or is this just another expensive skincare fad? Look, you've probably seen these LED masks promising collagen production and extra skin firmness, wrinkle reduction even. But here's the uncomfortable question. If red light therapy really builds collagen and removes wrinkles, why doesn't everyone in dermatology just simply hand their patients an LED mask and then call it a day? So today I'm going to answer three things. Using human studies and not marketing, does red light therapy actually improve wrinkles? Is the collagen boost legit? Or is this just a nice sounding marketing phrase? And if all of this is legit, what specs matter? What should you be looking for when buying a device? Look, I've been covering red light therapy, all the good and the bad, for about 7 years now. I've tested a lot of products and I dive rather deep into the research. And I'm going to tell you the facts without all the hype.
I'm affiliated with some of the companies mentioned in this video, and I will earn a commission if you buy through my links or discount codes. Products were provided to me free of charge, and all opinions are my own. This is not medical advice.
So on this channel, proof means human trials, ideally with control groups as well. And we need to see objective measurements, real-world testing results, not just I feel like my skin's firmer or glows better. So when people refer to boosting collagen, they typically mean fine lines look softer, skin texture looks smoother, and sometimes skin feels firmer. But collagen isn't a switch, it's a slow remodeling process. Even if a treatment nudges collagen biology to the upside, the visible result can be small and it can take weeks to show effect. Now, collagen is often used as a magic word, but two treatments can both affect collagen, and yet both produce very different looks on your face because dose, penetration depth, and even the baseline skin condition you're working with all affect the end result. So red and near-infrared light used in photobiomodulation, or red light therapy as it's commonly known, are non-ionizing, non-UV wavelengths that can trigger cellular signaling. The short practical mechanism story is this: light, which is absorbed in the cells by photoreceptors, which can lead to downstream changes that can influence inflammation and tissue remodeling. In skin, the collagen story usually focuses on fibroblasts and the balance between making collagen and breaking down collagen. Now, some human and ex vivo data, ex vivo meaning experiments done on cells outside of the human body, are consistent with the direction, meaning that biology could support the remodeling process, meaning that yes, we could alter the rate of breakdown and rebuilding. But just because these mechanisms are in place and proven doesn't mean that that $500 mask is going to give you the results you're looking for. And now when it comes to $500 masks, I know there are a lot out there. I've actually reviewed a lot of them and I've tested them based on what the literature says in terms of what we need. More on that later in this video, but I'll just give you a quick heads up on this now. If you are looking for a mask, I do have a buyer's guide. Check it out. It's free to use and it will cut through the marketing hype. There's a link to that down below. Okay, so let's start with a trial that's hard to dismiss because it's using a control group. So this study was done in 2025 and it looked at 95 women aged between 45 and 60 using red LED masks. The mask was putting out a very common 660 nanometer wavelength. We see this in a lot of masks today. And the mask was delivering about 6.4 milliwatts per centimeter squared over a 21 session, meaning a dosing figure of 8 joules over centimeter squared. Now look, don't get too caught up on the numbers. I'll break this down later, and I also refer to this in all of my reviews and buyer's guides as well. So the researchers split the participants into two groups. There was a 2 sessions per week group and a 3 sessions per week group. And they did sessions for 4 weeks. Remember, there was also a control group that had a mask which was not emitting any therapeutic red light. So what happens? Well, on one clinical wrinkle rating scale, there was no significant differences between the groups. But on an objective image analysis, this is someone looking at high quality, high resolution images, they did see a significant reduction in wrinkle length in certain regions. especially around the side of the eyes. This was in comparison to the control group. Now, finally, I should also mention that patient satisfaction scores were also a lot higher in the groups using the red light therapy masks. So this is the participants saying, hey, look, I think my skin looks better. So this is a promising result, though not amazing. And I guess what this is saying is that, yeah, some things change, some don't. And this is a common finding in skincare research, especially when the changes are very subtle. And look, to be honest, a 4-week trial period is very, very short. A second study done in 2023 was a randomized trial. Now, it recruited 137 women aged between 40 and 65. They compared 660 nanometers, red light, on one side of the face versus amber light, 590 nanometers, on the other side. Now, the light dose was the same, about 3.8 joules over centimeter squared per session for 10 minutes. So about half the dose as the previous study. And they repeated the sessions for 10 times over 4 weeks. Again, on the shorter side, but hey, that's science today. They measured periocular wrinkle volume, so wrinkles around the eyes, with special advanced facial imaging techniques. The researchers reported around a 30% reduction in wrinkle volume on both sides, 31.6 on the red side and 29.9 on the amber side, effectively the same. But this is crucial. They did not see improvements in objective hydration or viscoelasticity measurements. And because both sides got an active light treatment and there wasn't a sham controlled group, it supports the light can change a wrinkle metric, but it doesn't give us any meaningful data as to what wavelength is better, what time duration is better. And again, what happens if you use these treatments for 12 weeks or even longer? Still, despite all of this, the direction is consistent. Red light therapy can improve wrinkle endpoints, but it doesn't reliably improve everything, at least based on these short-term studies. Now, there is an older study done in 2007. It was a classic placebo-controlled multi-arm LED trial. So in this study, participants were assigned to 633 nanometer red or 830 nanometer near-infrared light, or they received a combination of both, or the final group received nothing, the sham control group. Now, all participants were getting 2 treatments a week, again for 4 weeks, but the researchers followed the people for about 3 months. Now, the researchers reported on objective measurements like elasticity and melanin count, and also biomarker shifts consistent with tissue response. Now, the reason I like the study, it's not just a standard before and after. It also had the control group with no wavelength exposure. It also had different wavelengths, and of course, there was that combination group. Now, there's also an older study which was looking at 2 different wavelengths. So participants were split into 4 groups. They were either assigned 830 nanometers near infrared, 630 nanometers red light, a combination of red and near infrared, or a control group receiving no light. Now, the participants did 2 treatments a week for 4 weeks again, but the researchers looked at the skin after a period of 3 months. And the findings did show that, yeah, there was objective measurement improvements in elasticity and melanin markers, and specific biomarkers consistent with tissue response all improved as well. Plus, there was great tolerability with the masks. Scientifically, there are 2 different questions here. Firstly, do people look better after using red light therapy? For wrinkles, the best answer is yes, though maybe the changes are only modest. And it may depend on how you measure it exactly. But this is supported by control groups and randomized data trials. The second question is, do we see human evidence of a boost in collagen remodeling when using red light therapy masks, or any red light therapy product, to be honest? And to answer this, we need to look at the small human biopsy and ultrastructure studies where people were using red or near infrared or sometimes both, and researchers were using some very high-end devices such as electron microscopes. And yes, we see that collagen architecture can change as a result of red light therapy exposure. But it doesn't automatically mean your mask is going to deliver the same result. And even if it did, that the visual effect will be dramatic. Remember, this is not facelift surgery or Botox. So my honest translation is simple. Collagen remodeling is plausible, and yes, there is some human support, but your miles may vary. I guess the practical real-world takeaway is best described as incremental wrinkle softening, not a structural facelift. Okay, so knowing all of this, let's say, look, you want to dive in, you want to get that incremental boost in your skin health and collagen production. Well, if you're shopping and you don't want to get sucked into influencer hype or marketing hype or false claims, because there's plenty of them, then yeah, I do have that mask buyer's guide that you can check out. But let me run through the key points here. Firstly, when it comes to wavelengths, you want something that's got red light in it. 630 to 660 is kind of your gold standard. Fortunately, pretty much every mask I've ever tested, which is over 30, has included a wavelength in this range. All of the studies I touched on include red light in this wavelength. Of course, some are also including near infrared. So typically 830 to 850 is your second best pick here. I personally like 830. The next thing to look for is the amount of energy or the dose that's actually delivered to the skin. This is typically measured in joules over centimeter squared. Now, this actually matters more than LED count. The frustrating thing is, though, it is very hard to find out what this figure is. It's actually very hard to measure. Now, I do my best in my mask reviews to come up with a dose figure. It's not perfect, but it is relatively reliable. So you can just check out my reviews. Actually, a better thing to do is to check out my mask shopping tool, where I have all of the dosing figures in there as well. So you can just quickly pull it up. So as for what is the optimal dose? Well, in human trials, doses range from a few joules over centimeter squared, about 3.5, up to much higher. I mean, I've even seen studies where people were using 100 joules over centimeter squared. But typically around that 4 to 10 joules figure is kind of your sweet spot. The good thing is you can manipulate the dose figure by changing the treatment time. Of course, though, it can get very confusing and all the calculations can become high school level math, which is probably not something you want to get into. Again, though, I have covered this in most of my mask reviews, giving you the practical takeaways, so check them out. You see, the other thing is a lot of companies will claim the power output of an LED, but again, this is kind of meaningless. It's a marketing number. You really need to see the total dose, the total power output across all the LEDs. The third thing to consider is treatment time and adherence. Most of these studies are doing 10, 20-minute sessions a few times a week. Now, realistically, if you cannot commit to that, I wouldn't recommend buying a mask and expecting to see amazing collagen enhancing benefits. You want to do at least 3, maybe 5 sessions a week. Though there is a limit. More is not better. 3 to 5 is probably the sweet spot, but you can experiment with more frequent sessions, but it may be not needed. In fact, in some of the research we looked at, some participants were getting nearly as good, if not the same results, when only doing 2 or 3 sessions a week compared to daily sessions. Another thing to factor in is coverage and fit. Now, firstly, if the mask is uncomfortable to wear, you're just not going to use it, or it's not going to be pleasant to use, and you'll probably give up. The second thing is coverage. Is the mask, are the LEDs covering all areas of the face that you want to treat? Because yes, there are some very popular masks on the market, and they may have the perfect dose and nice and comfortable to wear, but they're quite small. And if you're only covering a very small treatment area, then kind of missing out. Also, another thing to look out for is warranty period. A lot of these masks have batteries that seem to die after a year or so, and also returns period, because yeah, if you don't like the fit, or you don't feel comfortable using it, or you don't see results after, say, 60 days, you probably want to return it. I also want to touch quickly on safety. You see, in clinical trials, facial LED treatment is usually well tolerated. There's no major adverse effects emphasized in the research that we looked at. But real world safety comes down to specifics. There's eye health. Red light is bright. Near-infrared light may not feel bright, but it still reaches the tissue. So use eye protection if provided. Okay, so let's condense all of this. Here's the evidence-based takeaway you need to know. So when it comes to wrinkle improvement, yes, we do see real benefits in multiple human trials, usually modest and sometimes measurement dependent. You see, measuring wrinkles is like measuring weight loss. You can measure it by the scales. You could do a circumference measurement, skin calipers, body fat scans, maybe just the mirror, and all can provide different results, but all could be true in different ways. It's the same with wrinkles. And what about red light therapy boosting collagen? Well, It's plausible, but there's limited human support. I mean, you should expect some incremental change in the positive direction, but you may not see dramatic visible change. And another thing to keep in mind is you really need to get the dosing, the wavelengths, the power output all dialed in. Otherwise, you may just be spinning your wheels and wasting your time. Think of it this way. A drug that may be clinically proven, the mechanisms are all understood, and it's highly effective. But if you don't take it in the right dose, you may not see any benefit from using it. It's the same with red light therapy. Now, when it comes to buying a mask, prioritize the right wavelengths, look for good skin coverage and fit, and make sure you've got adequate dosing, the right power in there. Don't get caught up into hype. Don't fall for lasers over LEDs or fancy pulsing or something that influencers are getting paid $200 to promote, because that does happen. Look, we know that red light therapy works, but you've got to use it the right way to get these benefits. And not every product out there is going to deliver the right dose, the right wavelength, or the right power.